Okay, I think that looks like everybody now. I'll just keep it on the waiting room over the next few minutes, but prynawn da, pawb. Croeso, Lisa Dewis, bod cyfarfod yn CDPS, a diolch am ymuno â ni am y sioe dangos y dweud heddiw, amdan rhannu adnoddau trawsnewydd digidol gan y tîm sydd wedi bod yn gweithio ar Hwb Rhannu Digidol. So good afternoon, I'm Elise, I'm a Communications Officer at CDPS, and thank you for joining us today for our show and tell on sharing digital transformation resources, and this is by the team that have been working on the Digital Sharing Hub. So just before we get started today, I'm going to run through just a couple of housekeeping bits. So we are recording the session today that we'll be uploading to our YouTube channel. The session is set up as a Zoom meeting and not a webinar. So if you don't want to be seen on the recording, please make sure that you switch your camera off. We're going to be giving our presentation for about 30 minutes or so, and then there will be time for questions at the end. So if you're thinking of any questions as we're going along, you're more than welcome to pop them in the chat and we can come back to them in that Q&A time. And we will be sharing the link to the recording following on from the session in our follow-up email. So today we're going to be covering some of the background context to our project and the work that's been done so far. There's going to be a short demonstration on the Digital Sharing Hub, and we're going to be discussing some of the findings from our user research and the recommendations and next steps for the project. And lastly, as I mentioned, there will be time for questions at the end. So before I hand you over to the rest of the team, I'm going to do a quick introduction to our temporary team that have been working on the project. So we have Adiola, who has been conducting our user research, Dionysa, our information architect, project manager Stefan, and our delivery manager Ryan, Rich and Mena, who have been uploading lots of useful content and populating the hub with resources and guidance as our content administrators, myself as a communications officer, and last but not least, Pete, who's head of skills and capability at CDPS, who I'm going to hand you over to now to give some background context on the project.
Okay, Mum is working, Cookie.
Oh,
Just got a bit of feedback there.
Yeah, there we go. Fab. Thanks, Elise. Diolch yn fawr. Croeso cynnes i chi gyd. Lovely to have people with us today. Thank you very much for joining us. As Elisa said, yes, I am going to do a little bit in the beginning about the context, just to set the scene. Please ask us questions in the chat. This is all about us showing you the thing. So we're going to focus most of our time on that and the results of what we found from our user research and testing. So a little bit of background context from me, and I'm going to start with these things. So these challenges that you can see on the screen were unearthed during the 6-month discovery phase before CDPS was created. So officials from Welsh Government spend a lot of time on the road, talking to leaders, talking to people who work in public service delivery across Wales, and revealed these challenges. This is a summary of the challenges. In particular, the two that are highlighted in sort of bold print there, those are the two that we feel that the knowledge sharing hub could address. So that's what we were going to do next. So that's the next slide, please, Elise. As a summary of that, a brief was arrived at, and the idea is that this is not a CDPS thing. So even though it says design and pilot delivery of a knowledge sharing hub, and CDPS were to lead on this, the idea was to create a platform that was available to be used by people delivering public services. So it's not a CDPS thing, owned and run by CDPS essentially, but a public service delivery platform for people who are involved to look at and find and share, importantly, the practice that they're using at the time, and look for and find resources that others have. Okay, if we go on to the next slide, please, Elise. The expectation was that the creation of a knowledge sharing hub might meet the needs highlighted by those challenges, but we wanted to stay as much as possible true to our core beliefs here in CDPS, and need to distinguish between user wants and user needs. So even though there was lots of feedback saying a knowledge hub would be a great thing to have, and wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have a place to share knowledge, is that actually the case? Is that what people really need, and is that what people are going to use? So we've taken this approach, focusing on the problem, not solution, even though we have an experimental solution, a prototype to try. We wanted to avoid risk and not waste any money, and particularly conscious of user needs. So we wanted to make sure that we probably all use knowledge hubs. We've all come across situations where they haven't worked. We're conscious that things have been created. And I don't know, you may know the rule. Stefan brought this to our attention a little while back, but common rule of thumb for online forums is that 90% of people come along and lurk. They'll have a read, maybe they'll download some things, and 9% might comment, might edit, might engage in some way more than just reading, and then 1% of users actually drive the thing forward and contribute and upload and so on. So we're conscious of that in the background, and we wanted to make sure that we had something that was prototype, that we could get in front of people quickly to test, making something that was easy to use, links that were friendly. And we've done this in what we hope is an exemplar way. So our team very quickly has uploaded lots of resources. They've done it in a way that's friendly, it's useful, and the format is exemplary. So we've tried to be bilingual in everything we've done. We've also focused on including links to existing material online, rather than uploading and attaching documents, downloading it from somewhere, transferring it, uploading it somewhere else, which is not the best approach in terms of our carbon usage and energy demand. So, and duplication, no need. So that's it from me. I'm going to hand over to Steph. Stefan's going to tell us a little bit about our experiment ar brawf nesaf, please.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Pnawn da pawb. So yeah, as Pete mentioned, it was critically important for us to do this in the right way and to make sure that we're focusing on understanding the problem as best as possible and speaking to users, and most importantly, sort of de-risking this as much as possible. So yeah, if you could move to the next slide, please. I'll kind of just briefly talk you through the kind of action plan that we sort of put together to approach this. So everything sort of at this stage of the project hinged on a couple of key assumptions, which I'll talk about in just a sec. But so our user research was put together. The plan that we put together was focused on validating these key assumptions. And then Pete also mentioned sort of getting a prototype in front of users as quickly as possible. And so in order to do this, we procured an off-the-shelf solution to test with at crucially a tiny fraction of the price that it would have cost to actually just, go and build this sort of thing from scratch. So which also speaks to the avoiding risk component that we detailed in our approach as well. And so yeah, and then we uploaded resources. We initially decided to focus just on a couple of topics to just as a because this is initial stages, this is just a proof of concept. So we focused on mostly AI resources and a little bit on cybersecurity and a few other things as well. But just to sort of give people a sort of feel for what this thing could be. And so yeah, in terms of the key assumptions that we validated, in a nutshell, if you could next slide, please. Yeah, sorry. So essentially, yeah, is there a problem worth solving? That's crucial to sort of validate from the beginning. And so in our research, this is the question that we specifically ask people: do they think there's a need for this sort of thing? And the second one is, so would this proposed solution, some type of knowledge sharing platform, would it actually address these needs? And so this is another question that we asked our participants. To validate that, we would ask them whether or not they would actually use and recommend this thing. So yeah, before we get into talking about the actual user research, I think we're going to hand over to Menna. She's going to give you a little demo of this solution that we procured, this thing that we did the testing with.
Diolch, Stefan. So, gyflwyniad cyflym i'r Hwb Rhannu Digidol. So this will be a quick introduction to the Digital Sharing Hub. I'm hoping to share my screen now. If this doesn't work, I have pre-recorded a video of that. Is that okay, Elise? Okay. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the homepage of the Digital Sharing Hub. From here, you can access the tabs above and your own profiles in the corner. The language switch function is very easy. It's just the Cymraeg in the corner or the English for vice versa. And you can do so on any page that you're on. So everything is fully bilingual and accessible in Welsh or English. One thing to note is that you do have a default language, so that will be helpful later. Rich and Elise have created a lovely help page with jump links. So if you have any questions, it'll take you right down. There are screenshots, tutorial videos. So any issues, although it is a fairly straightforward system, we have pre-prepared that. But the main resource is the resources page. So this is a catalogue of all the posts that will be uploaded. Currently we have over 200, almost 300 resources. So you can browse the catalogue as is, or you can filter based on type, content type, the public service, categories, or by tags. Or you can search by here, and it does do so here. Let me just do that. You can also categorize based on newest, most liked, alphabetically. But, oh, sorry, I think I cut out a bit there. We'll try and add a resource now. So you have a few functions to fill in. While only 2 are requirements, we do have, here's these ways to filter and various categories. We are attempting to get people to not add more at this time, but I've pre-prepared one, so okay, that worked. So you can have the title, but the main way to format is here. It'll probably look quite familiar to most people. It's similar to what's in Word. Just work with that, but there is also a function to add a bit more to your post, so it's not just a dull sort of catalogue. You can add videos, podcasts, images through the source code or through one of these tags above. Oops, sorry, wrong point there. And it will add in. Simply click save. And it will add in. To make this more accessible, we also have a comment section and a related content section. So it is an area for people to be able to communicate with one another and build upon what is in the hub already. Hopefully some form of collaboration, we'll see. Oh, sorry. I'm going to attempt to stop sharing now, just a moment. Stop share. There we go. Elise, if you'd like to go back to the...
That's great, thank you, Menna. Yeah.
Yeah, the only area where you cannot change is the default language of the add resources page. In that case, you will need to switch back to your default language. So if you're used to monitoring the hub in Welsh, you'll have to switch to English to add an English translation and switch back to Welsh, or vice versa with English. But that's the only area. Everything is bilingual and functions in both languages.
So I think we're now handing over to Deola for some of our user research findings.
Thank you so much, Elise, and welcome everyone. Apologies for my voice. I'm recovering from the flu, so bear with me. Okay, so if we go to the next slide, just talk about what we've been doing. So over the course of February 27th to March 19th, we've been conducting user research with the amazing people who confirmed and were able to participate in our 1 hour and 30-minute testing sessions. So what we wanted to do, as Mena has taken you through, is really get their opinion on the overall user interface, how they felt about using the language converter, finding and uploading resources, and their overall opinion about the prototype, but also to kind of establish whether or not a thing like this would be needed. If so, how do people feel they will utilize it if it was to go live? If you can move on to the next slide. So the great thing is everyone that we did speak to agreed that having resources easily accessible in one place would be valuable. As you can see here from one of the quotes, it'll be better because it'll have everything in one place rather than having to have 20 Google search windows open. And that was a sentiment everyone that we spoke to gave us, the need to have something readily available for Welsh public sector service workers was really advantageous. So they saw that as a benefit. If you can move on to the next slide, please. There was the fact that people do like the hub as an idea, as a concept, was great. But when we asked, okay, so how would you see your role or your participation in this if it was to become a thing, a live solution? Everybody said that they'll probably use it, but as a reader, which means that we'd probably need to do a bit more testing to understand whether or not this actually does meet the needs of users and understand the types of users we have. So we are looking for contributors, people who are going to kind of collaborate and interact, so like more social commentators. Casual passive readers is good, but obviously you want it to be more useful. So we need to speak with people that are more likely to use this in a way that we feel will make the most use of the return on investment. But as you can see here from the quote, I don't know that I would upload anything, but it's always good to know that there's something like this available. So if they were going to, this is something they would use. One reason also mentioned that as part of their annual appraisals or objectives, they are required to like showcase what their organization's doing or their team. So the hub could potentially be a place that they would upload some of the amazing work that they're doing or best in practice digital transformation resource. Next slide, please. Overall, people did stress that a vetting process is required to ensure that the resources shared or uploaded are actually reliable, presented well, and follow a standard format for the usefulness. So as you can see here from the quote, the participant did have a bit of fear that rubbish in, rubbish out, and that will it kind of defeats the purpose of the repository or the hub. The whole point is for people to know that they're coming to a site that's credible, reliable, and trustworthy. But how are we going to enforce that credibility? So there was a suggestion of us having some vetting process, also an opportunity for people who contribute to show their credibility as well by listing their name, their organization, their title, which will give a bit of confidence to readers as to the credibility of the resource. Next slide, please. So the hub, as it currently is, lacks that user-friendly browsing experience, which can be tailored to the users, who predominantly will be readers as opposed to contributors. So the ability to kind of explore different topics or relevant subjects would be useful, but it's not currently on our main resource page as of yet. So if possible, people can find a resource without having to search it and look at like a catalogue of subjects or topics that they can explore would be very useful, because not everybody who's browsing knows exactly what they're looking for. It's always good to kind of see things that could be of interest or is a hot topic at the moment, or just by chance, let's just have a look. Whereas at the moment, the way it's presented, you kind of have to know what you're looking for, which is again evident from this participant's quote. Next slide, please. So now I'm just going to discuss some of the key recommendations that have come out from our the key user pain points and insights that we have gathered across the research sessions. Next slide, please. So in terms of looking at ways to ensure the reliability of content, it's important to give users confidence that the resources that they have come across are actually credible and trustworthy. And there are many different ways we can go about this, such as centrally managing the platform, having like an administrator to kind of make sure things are checked before publishing, vetting the content, or having guidelines available so that people can follow a standard before uploading any sort of resource to the platform. But also to get engagement subject matter experts who can contribute to the pub, which will also increase our credibility, but also raise their profile. So that's something that's going to require some more discovery for us to understand the best way forward. The second recommendation in terms of search experience is we need to conduct further rounds of research to focus on the taxonomy, the content design, to understand what users find the most useful approach to find a resource. Because as you can see, there's tags, there's type, which some people may be confused by. So we probably need to find out, okay, what do you need to see as opposed to what's there? And also to kind of streamline the uploading process as well, because people that we did speak to mentioned that, do we need all these fields? Why isn't an attachment at the bottom when it should be at the top? I'm confused. So the logical sequence of how the uploading process should be, that could be iterated on. And lastly, just understanding who our users actually are. While the hub is intended for everyone to use, that means that we're going to have a very diverse potential user base, but we need to spend more time to understand their needs and to kind of segment those different user groups according to things like their role, their level of expertise, their sector in which they're working in the public organizations, and also like their day-to-day habits, because not everybody is going to have the time to view some of the resources while they're at work. They might do it on the way to work or on the way to a meeting. So we need to look at that mobile experience, because we know most people consume information on their mobile phone or smart device. So we need to ensure that we tailor the experience to meet the demands of users anytime, anywhere, and also on any device. So now I'm going to hand over to Pete, who will talk to you about the next steps.
Wow. Thank you very much, Diola. Okay, so next steps. It's a tricky topic, really. We've got some ideas, but we're happy to listen to what people think. We are delighted to have Liz with us. Liz, who works for PlaceCube, with the suppliers. So Liz has been an absolute dream to work with and has jumped to all our demands and helped us fix things as we found things and tweak things as we've gone. But we anticipate continuing to work with Liz and the team to adapt and listen to the user feedback that we've already had. But essentially, it's the last 2 bullet points that I want to highlight here. The communities of practice, we think, are probably our next best step. So we have a number of expert groups that meet regularly. CDPS has ways in and access to the people in those groups. So rather than opening up the hub at the moment as is, from completely private and secret, essentially, you only get access to it if, you know, we know who you are and you know where it is. Rather than opening it up to be completely public and discoverable and open at the moment, we're thinking the next step should be, let's build some more expertise in a small step, bring on the communities of practice, a group at a time, get them to use the hub, collect their feedback. It's quite a protective little environment. They'd be happy to do that. We can, you know, communicate with them quite easily, and build from there. We can continue to monitor usage, and we will continue to do some ongoing user research, but we're anticipating about 6 months of this. That's the sort of aim we're thinking about. We get to the end of 6 months and then have another refresh and another stock take. Let's see where we are, how things are going. The next bullet, the third one down, I think we've got Chris from WLJ on the call, so hi Chris. WLJ are busy building their own requirements, and we're conscious of that. It's just timing hasn't worked out to be able to incorporate them yet. But I know we need to pay attention to what WLJ have said to try to make sure that this fits together nicely. And perhaps we'll come back to Chris later on if he wants to dive in and comment. And then, yeah, continually, it's the review, feedback, and iterate the site. So we've got high hopes to keep going, but essentially we're going to move from completely secret to a private version where people can discover it, but we need to ask to join. So we'll be able to control membership in that sense, and encourage our communities of practice to be the key users. In that sense, we've got that respected positions. The people uploading and contributing will be people in respected positions. They know what they're talking about, and we can open it up further as we go. And as I say, we'll continue to track usage and move on. Okay, so I think that's about as much as we have to say at this point. We are definitely with lots of time for questions, and we're anticipating questions. I haven't seen many in the chat. I know Gabby's asked, and that's been answered, but happy to open up the floor now. If there are any questions or comments or suggestions, please ask away. Oh, Andrew's got one in the chat. Thanks, Andrew. Let me deal with that one quick. When it's live, will people be able to access resources without an account? So it depends on what we decide to do with access control, is the short answer. Essentially, we can make it completely public. That's the original intention. So anybody stumbling across the site could click on the links, follow the resources, and so on. But you would require an account to upload. There are alternative arrangements to that, but yeah, that access control is there. Okay, great, thanks. Oh, here's Chris. Chris has said he's happy to comment. Fab. Can we unmute Chris? Or Chris, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm in.
Perfect.
Can you hear me now? Yeah,
yes,
awesome.
good.
So yeah, it wouldn't let me. My camera's gone backwards for some reason, so you can't see me. But from all I could see is the back of my screen for some reason. But yeah, so I just wanted to come in on the requirements that we're gathering. So we've spoken to, I think it's like 18 of the 22 councils in Wales. We've done like requirements gathering workshops with them, and spoken to some sort of suppliers as well, just to get a bit of an idea of what is out there and if our requirements could be built separately. But what I will say is that, yeah, definitely more than happy to work with you on this, just to make sure we're both aligned in the same way. I know it sounds a bit shady saying, oh, we'll have a meeting after this and catch up, but yeah, definitely happy to pass you over those requirements and see what we can do to work together on this.
Brilliant. That's great to hear. Thanks, Chris. Much appreciated.
Cheers.
Okay. I'm not seeing any more appearing in the chat at the moment. Anybody feeling brave? Any comments or questions? I was anticipating lots, but okay. I'm going to let it grow a little bit more uncomfortable. And I wonder if I can put anybody on the spot. I know we've got some colleagues from partnership team here. So I know Joe is here, Rita's here. I thought I saw Janine a little while ago, but I don't know if, would you like a comment or any thoughts from your perspective, Joe or Rita, perhaps? We can stop the recording if you want. If you want.
Hi, Peter, it's Joe.
Hi, Joe. Thank you.
It's looking good, and the fact that the content is going on there and you've put so much on already, you know, really happy with it's bilingual. I'm just slightly concerned about the timescale of 6 months testing now. You know, and just wondered if there's any way that we can speed up that timescale.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Joe. Yeah, that's just an idea from our perspective. It's sort of a medium term operating of it. The contract's in place for plenty of time ahead. We've got nothing to worry about there. It's more a case of when will we have significant usage to determine patterns and so on. So we've got Google Analytics running constantly in the background. It's just, you know, it felt like that was an appropriate time scale to give it now. So we've been operating from just before Christmas till now. So we know, you know, a baseline, but this was very, very private, in, you know, secret even in our implementation at the moment. But next stage, happy to report back, you know, more frequently than that. You know, that's no problem. It's just we're thinking at that point, 6 months in, we'd be in a more confident position, I suppose.
Yeah, I just think, you know, in even if it's only sort of switched on for read only in the short term, for wider use, you'll see whether you'll get some sort of feedback then on whether people are finding the stuff on there, even if it is only in limited subject areas at the moment, whether they're finding it useful, whether there are repeat visits, whether there are that. So yeah, I think even just being able to see the stuff that's going on there and not necessarily opening up the publishing to everybody at the moment, maybe keep the publishing to the communities of practice. Right. But I think to get traction of the project, you need to have people actually seeing what's on there.
Yes, yeah, agree. Okay, yeah, I'm with you. So yes, so communities practice definitely leading the charge in terms of publication and uploading and such like. And we can allow people to find the site. So by that I mean we can promote it to a degree as well. So we could, you know, make sure we communicate the fact that it exists. We can invite people to log in.
Yeah, I think that would be useful, you know, because you'll get feedback from those that are just going to be readers then as well, won't you? Yeah. Rather than, you know, necessarily those that are going to be the content producers.
Yes, true. And you're right. Yeah, we've got limited topics at the moment. Community practice was almost like the next layer of the onion out, but I guess after that it could be enormous, and let's learn as we go. Okay, yeah.
And, you know, potentially learn on single topics, even if you just promote and say, you know, we've only got stuff on AI out there at the moment. Have a look, tell us what you think. So people aren't looking for things that aren't there if they know that it's limited topics. And then as you put a new topic on, say, hi, everybody, we're beginning to populate such and such a topic.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, thank you. Yeah, lovely. Okay, any other thoughts, or is everybody thinking of their bellies because it's dinner time? I'm looking down the screen here. No hands shooting up. Okay. Let's call it a day then. Thank you ever so much. Let's stop there. Brilliant. Much appreciated. And if you have any thoughts or you didn't feel like you could raise it publicly, please give us a shout. No doubt you'll know where we are. That email address you can see on screen works to get messages directly to us, or me directly if you like. I'm peter.thomas@digitalpublicservices. But please stay in touch. Diolch yn fawr am ddod. Thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon all. We'll stop there. Diolch. Hwyl.